So the first video is scheduled to go up this morning, I think about 10:30, and so the first views, first comments are trickling in, and so far it's a pretty positive response. I'm looking forward to the rest of this project. That last video was a little bit rushed. I had to finish editing it before I left on this trip, which is why the last video was scheduled instead of just being manually uploaded. But it looks like that trend's gonna continue again this time because, as you can see, I'm currently not at home. Anyways, I'm actually going to be working on this project while I'm here. I'm going to be here for about 2 weeks, so that means I can edit videos from my laptop, and I can also work on the actual piece of software itself, the actual engine and the editor. I'm not sure exactly how well I'm going to be able to program after a couple beach drinks in me, but we're going to see how that both goes. And let's get started. On long trips like this, I usually like to balance my time between the sun and the shade to avoid being burnt to a crisp, especially in the first couple days. This ended up working out pretty well, as usually when I'm out of the sun, I'm just sitting there bored on my phone. But this time I actually had something to do, and it gave me time to work on the editor. It also allowed me to make friends with some of the locals. Like Bert here, who seemed to really like my sister's shoes and wasn't really afraid of us at all. I mean, I straight up felt like a Disney princess at some points. I figured I'd start with localization support since it's going to need to be used all throughout my program. This way I don't have to go back and replace all the existing text somewhere down the line. At first, I wasn't finding any localization libraries that suited all my needs, and I started getting scared thinking I was going to have to roll my own completely from scratch, when I finally found a library called Vue i18n, which works natively with Vue and worked exactly how I wanted it to. As a bonus, the entire process for adding the library is automated, meaning all I have to do is run vue add i18n and everything, including library imports, are set up automatically. Next was a basic art panel. I'm not going to worry too much about the buttons actually doing anything until I get the canvas working, but I put them there just as placeholders. The canvas automatically sizes to fit the window when the panel resizes, but I was running into this problem where it wasn't shrinking again when the panel was expanded, causing this really ugly overflow. After a bit of digging around and finding absolutely no solutions, I found a handy workaround of temporarily shrinking the canvas to 1 pixel, getting the dimensions of the container, and then setting the canvas size to the captured dimensions. This seemed to work perfectly. So something I've been thinking a lot about is the name of this engine. Right now I'm calling it the Ed engine. That's kind of the placeholder name for it, just for like educational engine. I don't know. Maybe I'll add another D to it and make it like the Ed engine, like a name, but I don't know. If you have a really good idea for something this engine could be named, be sure to leave it in the comments down below, because I'm curious. Like, I'm looking for interesting names. I have a couple on the list in my head, but I'm interested to see what you come up with, and I'm probably going to ask around. As I suspected, pina coladas combined with the wonderful sea breeze and fantastic ocean view are probably the worst thing for productivity, but I have to say, it might be one of my favorite vacations I've taken in a long while. I really enjoy creating things, whether it's music, software, videos, or whatever I can make. I often find I'm stricken with the most creative energy during vacations, but being away from any creative tools has kind of been frustrating for me in the past. It's not to say I didn't spend a decent amount of time down at the beach. I spent a lot of time down there enjoying the sand and the water and the sunshine, but obviously I didn't take my camera nor my laptop down there because, you know, sand and water. Being able to relax and make something cool at the same time really is the perfect vacation for me. So what did I get done? Well, actually a decent amount considering the circumstances. I got the canvas drawing and navigation implemented. Currently it only loads in random sprite data. So the most recent project I worked on before this was a collaborative painting program I did for an art final. So I was able to use a lot of those techniques that I learned on that project here. The navigation menu is actually a component that handles all the calculations and passes the view state to the canvas. This is great because it means I can reuse the component in both of the other windows for navigation without having to rewrite anything. I started out using Vuex to transfer the nav state between the component and the canvas, but it was really sluggish, so I ended up rewriting a whole bunch of code and using events to pass the data instead. It's a little messier, but it loads faster. The canvas drawing is actually multiple layers that all get updated only when they need to be. When not being updated, they're cached and just slapped together on redraw. The navigation was actually a lot more difficult than I expected it to be, and it turned out pretty messy. I assume the navigation I implemented here would be similar to the one I used on the art project. The navigation in that was done simply by adding the offset to the points on screen, so I assumed it would be pretty similar. Oh, how wrong I was. Turns out, the simple act of adding a zoom feature completely turns that on its head. I was planning on using matrices, but that only works when translating points, and the JavaScript canvas drawRect function only takes in one point and then uses width and height parameters, making it more difficult. I ended up just using tons of vector math, like a lot, only to realize later that there's a simple solution that would have let me treat the x, y, width, height parameters of the drawRect function as 2 points, simply by subtracting the 2 points and using that as the width and the height. Anyways though, that's a refractor for another day. I've already spent too much time on it and I need to move on. So I'm back in St. Louis now, a couple days before this video is set to go live, so that means thankfully I don't have to edit on my laptop. Now this stretch was kind of slow for obvious reasons, which means that by the end of the next stretch I hope to have the art editor completely done, as well as starting work on the asset browser. A quick note I want to make about traveling during quarantine: we rented a private house on a private beach, which means the only people we were really having contact with is my immediate family, so we were being pretty safe and taking the proper precautions and everything like that and everything we did. But with that said, we've reached the end of another stretch. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. If you want to help support me as well as this project, you'll find links to my Ko-fi page down in the links in the description below. And as always, I will see you next time.